Today is Friday, January 15th, 2021, which means it's Derelict Friday. Hello, fiendlings, how the hell are you? Do I sound better yet? A little? A lot? Well, I'm feeling better, although sleep is still this thing that wrestles me into unconsciousness or not at all. I'm averaging about 8 hours a day, that takes 2 or 3 sittings. Good thing I have audiobooks because my eyes are freaking tired. So, what's going on apart from me getting better? Well, the Luna Fiend has had an infection for months now, and I had to take her to the vet because we just have to get this thing killed. So, she's on a different antibiotic, and hopefully that will finally take care of this mess once and for all. Of course, then I'll probably end up having to take in the Keko Fiend, because 2021. I've been writing a bit through all this, outlined a novel while half asleep. It happens. It even managed a little code this week, something I have to start cranking on again, but it shouldn't interfere with the writing as much this time around, because I'll be healthier. It did think of something interesting. A lot of you didn't even know I had written and podcasted The Black Evolution or Gare's Inferno since the last Derelict book. What the hell did you people think I've been doing the last couple of years? I imagine that's because you're not on the main feed, and if you're not on the main feed, well, you're going to miss out on a few things. Just saying. That's about all I have to say this week, apart from be safe, have a great week, and we'll talk again real soon. Here's episode 7 of Derelict Trident.
Chapter 11. Kelly's cheeks burned with embarrassment as they left the cargo bay. Embarrassment and anger, mostly at herself. She took up position a meter behind Carb as they mag-walked down the starboard side of the branching corridor. Carb kept her crouch low, visor scanning the darkness ahead in smooth pans. Her suit lights easily pierced the deep gloom, just as Kelly's did. Kelly stepped slowly to match Carb's shorter stride. When Dickerson mag-walked behind her, he must feel as though he were trudging through tar. Kelly gritted her teeth against saying something. Carb might not even be walking slow. It might just be that Kelly felt a need to move faster, to get this done. She'd been awake for just a few hours, and Kelly already wanted to get back in her stasis coffin. It was just mental exhaustion. Carb held up a fist and Kelly came to a stop. "What is it, Carb?"
"Thought I saw something moving,"
she said. "Dickerson?" Kelly asked.
"I didn't see anything, Corporal,"
he said. He sounded reluctant to admit it, meaning he was probably watching his rear feed more than the visor feed. "What did it look like?" "I don't know," Carb said. "Like movement." Kelly sighed in frustration, but did it off comms. "Okay, Carb, keep moving. Dickerson, keep an eye on the ceiling."
"Copy,"
the big Marine said. She readjusted the grip on her rifle and crouched a little lower while she continued following Carb. Kelly panned her lights, examining the bulkheads up ahead, looking for sign. The old S&R ship had been well taken care of, but the extended stay in vacuum had frozen excess humidity against the metal. Mira had had much more damage, but it had been exposed to space for decades, whereas Red had only been a derelict for over a week. Derelict. Derelict described a dead ship. No crew, extreme damage, no signs of life. Mira hadn't been a derelict. It had been a plague ship, pure and simple. She hoped Red hadn't suffered the exact same fate. They continued down the corridor, but saw no sign of movement or creatures. That didn't mean it wasn't a constant struggle to keep pushing forward. With each step, she felt as though steel belts were tightening around her chest.
"Engineering first?"
Carb asked.
"Or fire control?"
"Engineering," Kelly immediately said. "Want to get a look at the reactors?"
"Copy."
Carb said. She took another branch when they reached the next corridor. After 5 meters, a warning flashed on her HUD. "Rads," Kelly said.
"Aye, boss,"
Carb said.
"That was a big jump." "Not for me,"
Dickerson said.
"Didn't register much."
"Hold position," Kelly said. She pulled a nanoprobe from her belt and sent a block command. The probe, outlined in dark red on her HUD, immediately rose and moved further down the corridor. Kelly added the probe's feed to her HUD and shared it with Carb and Dickerson. They watched in silence as the probe made its way through the pitch black. Its light, weak when compared to their suit lights but strong enough to illuminate the entire corridor for a distance of 2 meters, showed them nothing but ice crystals on the deck. The probe's rad counter blinked up higher and higher with every meter the device advanced, but the rads were still well below their suit's radiation tolerance. Kelly mentally ticked off its distance to the engineering bay.
Here we go,
Dickerson said. Within 3 seconds, the probe's rad counter had gone critical. Before the probe's electronics failed, she saw something in the upper left corner of the feed. Even frame by frame, there was little detail, but she didn't need it. It was a talon, like those of the starfish. Unless the perspective was wrong, it wasn't a large one, but it was large enough.
Shit,
Carb said.
Guess we're not going that way. I think I have a pretty good guess what happened to the fusion drives on Mira now,
Dickerson said. Kelly pursed her lips and tightened her fingers on her weapon. Black is going to have a field day with that, she said. Okay, another claymore on this corridor. We'll place another near fire control.
Copy,
Dickerson said.
Guessing our best egress is backtracking to the cargo bay.
Unless we blow through an emergency airlock, Kelly said.
True,
Dickerson said.
but there's only one.
Don't borrow trouble, Kelly said. But she set a hazard HUD marker for the entrance to engineering and another to label the cargo bay as the redoubt. She was sure Dickerson saw the markers on his HUD and knew he was smiling beneath that visor. Asshole. Let's get moving, she said.
Claymore dropped.
Carp said.
That's my last one.
Acknowledged, Kelly said. 3 mines left. Dickerson had 1, Kelly had 2. She pulled one of her remaining mines and offered it to Carb. The Marine reached for it and placed it in her pouch.
Orders, boss?
Carb asked. Dickerson, they're attracted to light, right?
Seems like it.
He said.
They get more active in it, I guess.
That's what I think too, Kelly said. We can either dim our lights and put them in diffuse focus or switch them to mid or low lumen and narrow the focus considerably. Which do you prefer? Carb and Dickerson looked at one another, and although they couldn't see one another's faces, something unspoken seemed to pass between them.
Boss, you asking for advice?
Arguments for and against. Make it fast,
Point with diffuse. Rest of squad with narrow focus.
Dickerson said.
That'll illuminate what's in front of us and not add too much light when we clear corners.
Good, Kelly said. Same formation,
Moving out.
Carb said. She walked past Callie and her suit lights immediately dimmed as she reset their focus. The light from her suit rendered the corridor ahead of them in a dim twilight, the details of the bulkheads now barely visible. Callie shut down her suit lights and sent a block command to her rifle. The rifle's light narrowed in focus, casting a half-meter circle of bright light on the deck in front of her feet. A check of her rear cam showed her Dickerson had done the same. Following Carb down the corridor to fire control was like being inside Mira all over again. Kelly knew the darkness wasn't eating the light, that the phenomenon they'd experienced on the Hulk wasn't happening here. But Carb's dim forelights provided little more than 3 meters of visibility, and most of it was shrouded in shadow. The only saving grace was knowing what each cubic meter of Atmos steel should look like. Red was identical to both black and blue, with the exception of the occasional deck patch or other repair. That, at least, helped keep the fear to a tolerable level. As soon as they made 5 meters from the entrance to engineering, their rad counters returned to normal background levels. That at least answered a question for her. The radiation was coming from the creatures, or whatever they had created, in engineering. If another nanoprobe had a chance of making its way inside the engineering bay without succumbing to the high radiation levels, she would have sent in another to take a look. She wanted to know what was going on in there. Why? Because it was important. How important? She didn't know. But if they could figure out what the creatures were doing, how they were cultivating high radiation levels, she felt as though it would arm them with important information as to how to stop the bastards, maybe even destroy them en masse. But that wasn't a possibility. Maybe S&R Black's larger probes could survive the Sievert storm, but that would be a question for the AI when they made their way back to the cargo bay. Or through the emergency airlock, Kelly thought. They reached fire control and the ladder leading to the personnel decks. Carb's forward suit lights did little to illuminate the entire space.
Boss?
Carb said.
We want to explore here?
We have to, Kelly said. Unless our rad meters go off, we need to clear the area. Besides, This would be a good fallback position if the bridge and cargo bay levels were cut off,
True,
Dickerson said.
especially if you were trying to escape engineering. Got it, boss.
Carp said. The Marine glanced long and hard at the ladder, her helmet focused directly at the ingress to the personnel deck.
Moving forward.
They made it 7 meters before Carb held up her fist. She raised her rifle, turned on the built-in light, and shined it into a corner 5 meters above the deck. As the glow of white light reached the corner, Kelly saw the hint of something moving. Kelly's breath hitched for a moment as she steeled herself for what they'd see. She needn't have worried. Several torn pieces of ammo packaging floated near the ceiling, but that was all. Her top body relaxed slightly.
Well,
Dickerson said,
someone sure as hell was ready for a fight.
"That's not from a small arms locker," Kelly said.
No, it's not.
Dickerson scanned another corner with his light. More debris.
That's packaging for TAC missiles.
Carb growled into the mic.
You think they fired on the KBO?
Good question. If Red's crew saw the objects for the tangle of huddled creatures they were, would they have fired? Did they have a chance to fire?
Corporal,
Dickerson asked.
what did you see on the log?
Kelly's breath shuddered out of her lungs. Standing on the dais in the dimly lit bridge, she'd been staring at the staticky holo display in the last entry. When she realized what she was looking at, she'd ordered the squad to get the hell out of there. Her skin tingled with the memory. "I don't know who initiated the recording, but the bridge cameras managed to capture a swarm of the little creatures heading into the vents." Kelly turned and aimed her light at another corner, half expecting to see a starfish curled and ready to attack. Nothing. "I thought they might still be on the bridge," she said.
Damn glad you said something.
Dickerson said.
Little bastards seemed hungry. Vents?
Harp said. She panned her light across the ceiling and found the large rectangular vent in its middle.
That's not good.
"No," Kelly agreed. The large vent guard was still in place, but something looked wrong. She focused her helmet light, set it to maximum brightness, and shined it on the vent. After staring for a moment, she still couldn't figure out what had bothered her about it. Finally, she zoomed in on the image and instructed her HUD to apply sharpening filters. She sucked in a deep breath. The grating on the vent covering had been burst outward in several places. Some of the narrow metal strips looked melted.
Oh, shit,
Dickerson said. He'd followed Kelly's aim.
That ain't good.
"No," Kelly said again, the word barely audible to her own ears. "They were down here,"
Yep.
Dickerson said.
I'm guessing they're using the vents to go from one level to the other. Shit!
Carb said.
We locked down the bridge, but how do we lock down the vents?
"We don't," Kelly said. "Let's check the missile bays and get the void out of here,"
Copy that.
Dickerson said. "Carb, Dickerson, keep an eye on those vents. I'll check the ordnance,"
Acknowledged.
Carb said, Dickerson's voice right behind hers. Kelly scanned the ceiling one more time to make sure they hadn't missed a lurking threat, but there was nothing else to see apart from floating debris. She swiveled and turned her attention to the starboard side missile bays. Her suit lights, now amped to full, melted the shadows obscuring the tubes and racks. 4 hull busters sat in one rack, the other empty. "Didn't have time to resupply?" she wondered aloud.
Would explain the ammo crate debris.
Dickerson said.
Guessing they had an emergency loadout. Maybe they saw the KBOs too late?
"Maybe," Kelly said. "Or maybe the trio didn't bother telling them about it until it was on top of them." She checked the missile tube indicators. The mechanical status bars showed 2 of the tubes were full, 2 empty. "Pretty sure they fired,"
So am I.
Dickerson said.
Someone was prying the crates open in one void of a hurry. Betting they weren't locked and loaded because they were so close to the station, relatively speaking.
"What are we, a few hours away?" Kelly asked.
Pretty much.
Dickerson said.
And that's with a gentle acceleration.
"Not enough time," Kelly said. "Not enough time at all."
What do you mean, boss?
Carb asked. Kelly turned to face her. "I mean, they might have been trying to tow it before they realized the KBO wasn't a ball of Brock and ice." She shook her head as she glanced at the other TAC missiles in the rack. "If they'd been far enough away, they could have shattered both KBOs without a problem." Dickerson walked to the far wall, his helmet light scouring the deck.
Think the trio let them go out there without a warning?
Carr barked a short, sarcastic laugh.
Oh, I'm sure the fucking AIs told them everything.
Nice, Carb.
Dickerson said.
It would be their MO.
Carb said.
They sent us past Pluto to die without a clue. Why not Red?
Black had an interesting idea about that, Kelly said. She doesn't think the trio is trying to kill us. She thinks they need us for something.
Got a funny way of showing it,
Dickerson said. He turned from the wall and pointed his visor directly at her.
You trust Black?
The question was one she'd been turning over in her mind since their escape from Mira and their return to S&R Black. The AI had admitted she'd purposely crashed the skiff into Mira, stranding Callie and her squad inside the crumbling, infested hulk. Furthermore, she'd taken responsibility for fabricating a shatterstorm as an excuse to keep Callie and her squad from attempting to leave Mira. Did she trust Black? Based on what the AI had said, what she had admitted, and her justifications for her actions, Callie didn't want to trust her at all. Yet she didn't think the AI had done anything out of malice. Black might not even be able to help herself depending on what kinds of instructions the trio had hidden in her new and improved computing core. I think I do, Kelly said. But I don't trust the trio, and they have definitely added some fail-safes to her behavior. If the trio embedded a suicide protocol, or maybe an order to kill the crew when a certain situation arose, there wouldn't be a thing she could do about it.
Point,
Dickerson said. The only question is, does the captain trust her? Kelly said.
Until we get to Trident,
Carp said.
I guess we don't have much of a choice.
No, we don't, Kelly said. She panned her lights around the mostly barren space. I think we've cleared it as best we can. Let's head to the personnel decks.
copy.
Dickerson said. Kelly waited as Carb moved to take point, and Dickerson moved to the rear of the formation. The walk to the ladder to the personnel section took less than 40 seconds. For Callie, it was all too short a time. Despite the fact that something dangerous was in engineering, fire control appeared to be clear. So long as a swarm of the mini starfish didn't come screaming through the vents, they only had to worry about clearing the last deck. With the claymores down, they'd know if something approached, and from where. She hoped.